In this movie, we take a look at the universal selector. The universal selector uses the asterisk to indicate that we want to use it. So what you'll end up seeing whenever we have a universal selector is just an asterisk and then the declaration. Now I'm going to go ahead and say that we want to color everything green. Now this universal selector is actually going to say everything. So if I save that and take a look at that, we'll see that it gets applied to everything. Now you might be thinking, no, it doesn't get applied to everything. Well, that's true. It doesn't get applied to everything because we end up having more specific rules above our universal selector. So essentially, our universal selector is selecting everything that doesn't have some type of style already applied to it. Now we'll be talking quite a bit more about how our rules override each other whenever we get into the movie on the Cascade. Not only can we use this asterisk as a wildcard that selects every single object in the document, we can also use it to select the children or the grandchildren of a specific object. So if we wanted to, we could say we wanted to select all of the children of all of our paragraphs. Then we could write a rule that says P asterisk, and then we'll color it orange. I'll save and refresh, and here you see all of the children inside of our paragraphs being affected. Unless, of course, they have a more specific rule controlling them. So here you see all of the emphasis as well as the A tags being affected. So if we take a look at that DOM structure, it's a little bit easier to understand what's going on. So if we take a look at the paragraph and look at our P tag, here's our P tag, and then look at the child tag, we've got the strong tag, and then down here we've got the strong tag again. And then in the second paragraph, we've got the emphasis tag. And we can continue to go down through here, pointing out that we have a paragraph tag, and then underneath that we have a child tag. So our rule to select all children of the P tag works by essentially doing that. Now we can also use this to select all the grandchildren, but not the children of a specific object type. So let's say I wanted to select all of the grandchildren of paragraph tags that are A's. I could specify it as this. So I would do P asterisk A, and I'll color that red. I'll save that and refresh. And now we have basically said hit all A tags, as long as those A tags are inside of a paragraph, not inside of a list. Now if we take a look back at the HTML document, we'll see why our A tags are now red. If we scroll down, we'll end up seeing that we have an A tag here for this local.html. Well, this is actually a child tag of the strong tag. So the strong tag is nesting our A tag, so the A tag's parent is the strong tag, and therefore the A's grandparent is the P tag. So essentially what we're doing whenever we say P asterisk A is look inside of the P tags, find all of the children elements, and only apply this rule to those who have children that are A tags. Now this universal selector can be handy at times, but it can also be somewhat tricky to use. Now, I do recommend that you take the time to learn as much as you can about how this universal selector works, because it does have its place in your toolbox. However, it can be sometimes a little confusing to use. That being said, our universal selector is really not all that commonly used, but it is available to you and it does have its place. So that concludes this look at the universal selector.